Welcome to the Viewless Wings Poetry Podcast, where we celebrate the craft of poetry. Each week, we feature interviews with incredible poets and artists, including Olivia Gatwood and A.E. Stallings, and original poetry read by the authors. I'm your host, James Moorhead, Poet Laureate of Dublin, California, and author of Canvas and Portraits of Red and Gray.
My name is Linda Drattell. I am an author, poet, and advocate for the deaf and hard of hearing, residing in Northern California. My poetry has appeared in both online publications and anthologies, including Prompt for the Press, Viewless Wings, Las Positas College's Havoc Anthology, and in several of Winglish Dreamers anthologies. Field of Black Roses, Vanish in Poetry, Ink the Universe, and the upcoming Summer Fireflies. This poem, Paddington Park, will be featured in my collection of poetry, Remember This Day, which is scheduled to be published with Finishing Line Press in August 2023. I'm an avid long-distance runner. I own a 34-year-old horse and 3 goats. I serve on the boards of both the California Communications Access Foundation and the California Writers Club Tri-Valley Writers Branch. You can reach me on Twitter and LinkedIn through my handle @Linda Drattell. I also invite you to visit my author website, www.lindadrattell.com. My motivation for writing Paddington Park came from when I lived in London for a short period of time with my husband. I am deafened and have a hearing dog, and his favorite place to walk was in Paddington Park. One day, I noticed a gentleman who had passed away while sitting on one of the park benches. He was wearing a business suit and appeared at first to simply be resting. 2 police officers also spotted him, and one went over to sit by his side until help could come to move him. It was a very sad thing to witness, and I was impressed with the police officer who had chosen to sit quietly next to the man as if he were his friend. The poem Paddington Park. We lived for a time in London's Marylebone neighborhood on Chiltern Street, a stone's throw from Paddington Park. It rains most of the time in London, regardless of the time of year. My husband says this is what he loves most about London. You appreciate the sun when the sun does come out. Our dog loved our walks through Paddington Park, probably because of the other dogs he'd meet. A variety of roses grow robustly there, probably because of the incessant rain and the city's tending. Benches are dedicated to people who have passed away, who once declared this to be their beloved park, probably because they took refuge there from rushing to work, rushing home. On one of our strolls through the park, I noticed a heavy-set man slumped on one of the benches, his eyes closed, his body rumpled beneath a pressed shirt. I thought he was sleeping. Perhaps he had grown tired from walking. Then I realized he had died. 2 police officers arriving at the same conclusion tried to waken him. One left to seek help. The other sat next to the man as if they were friends. Solidarity through gentle touching, shoulder to shoulder. A macabre camaraderie, the deceased unaware of the living presence. How lonely the man must have been when he chose to sit on that bench. I looked away and continued past the rose bushes and other benches, past the children's play area, exited the park, strolled along Marylebone High Street, and stopped by a cafe. Drank a cup of hot tea at an outside table. My dog patiently curled by my feet. thought of the man on the bench. How lonely death is, no matter the setting. Almost an hour later, I circled back through the park and noticed the same police officer still seated by the dead man, eyeing the park entrance for his partner to return. We both nodded, sucked our lips into a half-pout, as if we'd worked for the same miserable boss. No idea when help would arrive. How lonely death is, no matter the weather.
The Viewless Wings Poetry Podcast is written and produced by James Moorhead. You can follow me on Twitter at Dublin Ranch, subscribe to the Viewless Wings Poetry Podcast, and follow us on viewlesswings.com or on Instagram at Viewless Wings.